creating custom Pokemon for you! Welcome back, everyone, to the show where we select lucky commenters to spin a series of random wheels that give us factors for a Pokemon that we then create just for you. It's gonna be an awesome episode today, y'all. We're gonna make 3 amazing custom Pokemon as always, so if you end up liking today's video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And of course, if you want a custom Pokemon for yourself, don't forget to leave a comment because I'll be randomly selecting people from this video's comments for the next episode. But without further ado, let's get into the first Pokemon! And this one will be for Bessie Burnett. I'm glad you liked Bunbury in the last episode, but hopefully you like your own Pokemon even more. So alright, Bessie, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be regular. And then I said, there's nothing wrong with that. Now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve, and you are going to get 1, which makes you a 2-stage evolution line. Now let's see what typing your Pokemon's going to be. Your first type is going to be the Grass type. That is a good classic Pokemon type right there. And Grass Fighting type, that actually sounds like it could end up being something super unique. And the last step before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and none this time. Get ready to see a Pokemon that locked in. The first stage of your Pokemon is Measleaf, the wimpy Pokemon. These Pokemon are incredibly physically weak, with its thin root limbs being so flimsy it's barely able to stand. But despite this Pokemon's physical limitations, it's actually incredibly heroic and often stands up against Pokemon who are clearly much stronger than it, as it attempts to protect its fellow weaker grass types. And while this does lead to it taking its fair share of beatings, Measleaf seems to always get back up. Upon leveling up while holding a big root, it would evolve into Heftleaf. This Pokemon has now absorbed the big root it was holding on to and has turned it into pure muscle, making it immensely strong. And this zero-turn hero uses this newfound power to pulverize all who threaten weaker beings, causing all of the forest evils to live in fear of this manly mandrake. In terms of stats, Heftleaf is predictably all in on its physical attack and defense. However, its HP is also very solid. But of course, that means that its speed and special stats are less than stellar. And for the shiny, I turned its green leaves into orange as a reference to autumn leaves, which is something I think every Pokemon with a leaf in its design should do for its shiny because it's just such a good theme and works well every time. But now let's get into the second Pokemon. And this one will be for Plasma Viceroy, who says that they hope we get the typing wheel to land on none twice. I guess that would mean we'd have to make a typeless Pokemon, which would be absolutely insane, but also super rare, so it might not ever happen. But anyways, Plasma, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you're going to be regular. Now let's see how many times your Pokemon can evolve, and you are going to get 1 again, which makes you a 2-stage evolution line. Now let's see what typing your Pokemon's going to be. Your first type is going to be the Dragon type. That is awesome. Everybody loves Dragon type and Dragon Ground type. I think that is objectively one of the coolest type combinations possible, so that is awesome. And the last step before we see which Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and you do a Mega Evolution. On top of that super cool typing, this Pokemon is crazy. Get ready to see a Pokemon who's perfect for aggroing the boss. The first stage of your Pokemon is Thorthane, the baby paladin Pokemon. These spiky lizards are known to bathe in the sun for hours at a time, as its skin has the strange property to absorb the solar rays. In fact, it's even said that this Pokemon has no need to eat physical food, as it gets all the energy it needs from simply being outside. At level 39, it would evolve into Palazard. This Pokemon is covered in a ton of sharp spikes, which you think would indicate that it's an offensive threat. However, it's actually a very defensive and supportive Pokemon, as it's now able to use the solar energy it absorbs to power its healing ability. That's right, this Pokemon channels the power of the sun to release rays of yellow energy, which fully restore any Pokemon they touch. And this is reflected in its signature move, Helio Healing, a Dragon-type status move that acts a lot like the healing version of the move Solar Beam, as when the move is selected normally, Initially, the user will have to charge sunlight for 1 turn, after which it will heal itself or a targeted ally for 60% of their max HP. And if it couldn't get any better, if the move is used during harsh sunlight, the user won't even have to spend a turn charging and can heal right away. When exposed to Palites, it would evolve into Mega Palizard. This Pokemon's body is now able to absorb insane amounts of sunlight, to the point where it's now created a small ball of pure solar energy, which it keeps between its horns, as it's now able to attack foes with beams of light so bright that if it battles during the nighttime, nearby cities may think that it's suddenly the middle of the day. In terms of stats, Mega Palizard has really good defenses as well as very good physical attack. But you can't have everything, so of course its speed is super mid. And regular Palizard has pretty much the same thing going on, however its defenses are notably worse and its speed is a little better. And for the shiny, I went with the silver color as a reference to armor, like what a paladin might wear. But now let's get into the third Pokemon. But before we get into that, it's time for the member modifier. If you didn't know, every week my channel members have been voting on a custom Pokemon from a previous episode to give a brand new upgrade. In the last episode, we gave Relion a corrupted form, but for this week, I thought it'd be fun to select one of the convergent evolutions we've made and give it a Mega Evolution. The options were Mewtwo, our Cosmic-type convergent Mewtwo, Magcargo, our Poison-type convergent Magcargo, Clampster, our Grass-type Venus Flytrap Cloyster, and Zangviper, our convergent Zangoose, which is combined with Seviper. And the winner was Magcargo! Magcargo's pre-evolution Sludgema has a body that's entirely made up of a very sticky tar, meaning if it wants to move, it has to constantly peel its body off of the ground, which obviously makes it super slow. In fact, it even has the lowest speed stat in Pokemon history of 1. However, when it evolves into Magcargo, this Pokemon's true speed is revealed, as now that it's attached itself to a car tire, it's able to spin the tire so fast that now the Pokemon is extremely quick. But it gets even better because when exposed to Magites, it would evolve into Mega Magcargo. This Pokemon has somehow got its hands on 4 giant tires, which now gives it the appearance of a huge monster truck, as it's now able to combine this new giant frame with its extreme speed, giving it the ability to race across the battlefield, flattening all that gets in its path. Huge thank you to all my channel members. I hope you liked Mega Magcargo, and if you want to look into becoming a channel member yourself to help us vote on the next member modifier, then you can look into that by hitting the join button down below. But now let's get back into the third Pokemon. And this one will be for Megan Bow, who watches the series with their husband. That's so cool. So alright Megan, let's start by getting the power level of your Pokemon, and you are going to be a fossil Pokemon, my favorite. So now let's spin this wheel to see how many times your fossil Pokemon can evolve, and you are going to get 0, which makes you a 1-stage fossil, just like Aerodactyl. Now let's see what typing your fossil Pokemon's going to be, besides of course the rock type, and it is going to be the fire type. That is super cool. There's never been a fire type fossil, so that's great. And the last step before we see what your Pokemon looks like, let's see if it has an X Factor, and you do, a corrupted form. We literally just made a fossil Pokemon with a corrupted form in the last episode, so that's crazy that we already have another one, but I am definitely not complaining. You may not like this Pokemon, but you can't deny its impact. Your Pokemon is Cindalava, the rolling meteor Pokemon. This Pokemon's large rocky shell makes it very stiff and heavy, causing their land speed to be super slow. And you'd think this would make it impossible for the Pokemon to catch any prey, but you'd be very wrong. Because where this Pokemon lacks in speed, it makes up for in reckless creativity, as it's known to stand on the top of very large mountains and scope out vulnerable prey from above. And once spotted, Cindalava curls up inside its shell and begins barreling down the side of the mountain directly towards them, leaving no time to escape, as the helpless Pokemon can only watch as this giant ball of fire turns them into nothing but ash. And it's this Pokemon's destructive nature that caught the attention of the distant evil Cosmic Legendary, who corrupted Cindalava, infusing it with a Cosmic type and setting it on a crash course straight towards Earth, sending all the regions across the world into widespread panic as they scramble to find a way to stop this impending extinction. In terms of stats, corrupted Cindalava has absolutely ludicrous physical attack and defense, and its speed isn't even that bad. However, it does have a glaring weakness because its special defense is super low. And for regular Cinderlava, its offenses and speed are much lower, but its special defense is way less of a weakness. And for the shiny, I went with this purple color because I thought it looked nice, and maybe it could even be a reference to the fact that the Pokemon can become corrupted. But that's gonna do it for today's episode, y'all. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe before you go. And if you want to watch more episodes of the Custom Pokemon series, then there's a bunch in this playlist. I'm gonna get right back to making some awesome custom Pokemon for you, so I'll see you in the next episode, but until then, peace.